It's a milestone many of us will never reach, living 100 years. But as you're about to find out, there's a lady who's been living here in Macon County for a century, and she doesn't show any signs of slowing down anytime soon. Elise Archer shows off her family photographs to me the day I visited her Lafayette home. She's lived in Macon County her entire 100 years. She lives by herself and still drives.
I was born on 10-Yard Road in Macon County, Tennessee, on November the 4th, 1918. And I lived there all of my young life and went to school at Brown's grade school, I guess you'd call it. And then I had a brother that was a school teacher, and he was teaching at Union Camp, so I went to school to him 1 year at Union Camp, still in Macon County. Then, I don't remember what age I was, I went to Long Fork School 1 year in Macon County under the teacher of a cousin of mine, Othea Jenkins. And then when I got through with grade school, I went to Macon County High School.
Elise would have graduated from Macon County High School in 1937, but left school after her junior year to get married.
I married Comas Archer. We married in 1936. My daughter is Shirley. Dean is her name. And we lived then. I had gone through being married and living with my in-laws. And she was born in 1938. And after she was born, I felt like we lived in the house with her in-laws. And I felt like we needed to get out somewhere else. So I talked to my husband about it, and they had on their farm on Galen Road, or off of Galen Road on Beach Grove Road, they had a house that they lived in, the log house that we moved into, and it had one big log room, and then it had on the back where I had my kitchen and my dining room, and then we had a bedroom upstairs. So we lived there that's where Shirley was born, in that log house.
After helping her husband on the farm for several years, Elise eventually started working in the public.
He told Comas one day, he said, "What does your wife do other than stay at home?" He said, "Nothing. She helps us on the farm and stuff like that." He said, "Well, there's been a storm come through Lafayette, and it blowed the top off of Lafayette Dry Goods. And he needs some help because he's going to have a lot of that stuff put on sale to get it out of there because it got a lot of stuff wet, the storm did." So he come home that day, and he said, "Well, I've found you a job." And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, Mr. Burton hires, that's who he was, he wants you to come up there and help Mr. Delmer Gent in the store because the storm has blown the top off and things are wet, and he's going to have to get everything out of there." And I said, "Well, if I can be any help, I'd be glad to." I went up there, started working for him, and I worked and worked. I can't remember how many years, but it's in the 30s.
Elise says today things are so different compared to when she was growing up. One thing that has remained the same is her constant faith in God.
The good Lord's been with me all down the track of life. I went to church as a kid all my life. And we went to Union Camp, Missionary Baptist Church. Mother and Dad carried me, and I can remember us going, and when we got off of Beach Grove Road to hit Browns Road, we had to go up a bank like this. Then before we got to Union Camp, we had to go down a hill. Mm-hmm. And we had a A-model car. And I thought, sure, Dad was going to run off of it with that car once. Scared me to death. But we would go to church on once a month. Business meeting would be once a month, and of course we'd have church that same day, and then we would go back no more till the next meeting day. Just once a month that we'd go to church. And then Baptists, we had meetings, Baptist meetings, and we'd go to different churches. And I went, my mother and daddy would take me to different churches. They'd take me to Days Crossroads, Long Fork, and of course we always went to Union Camp. And we had a family that lived in Smith County, the Wilmores, and we'd go to church at Mount Tabor when they'd have a Sunday church. So we'd go down there sometimes and miss our church. But we enjoyed going and seeing all the Wilmore family, because that's where they went. But then we went to Long Fork one night. I had an older sister that she and her husband had lived in Old Hickory, and they worked. But when they got off on the weekend, they'd always come up Mom and Dad's house. That was before I married. And we would go to church. So we went to Long Fork. Mother and Dad didn't go that night. They'd been going and carried me, because I was interested in getting saved. So they went, my sister and her husband went with me that night, and I got saved. And I was on the altar in front of the pulpit, and all of a sudden I come to myself, and I was way over yonder in the men's, where the Amen corner, where the men always sit.
Elise tells me she's very fortunate to be able to live as long as she has. She's extremely thankful for the friends she's made along the way. She says there really is no secret or magic potion for being able to live a century, but she's glad she's one of the lucky few who get to do so. Reporting in Lafayette, Barry Hyatt, NCTV.